Hello everyone, I welcome you once again to this segment on newspaper review in First Nest News Port Harcourt. I am Kings Ojalo, and it's the time where I will be taking you through all headlines on our newspaper platform in Nigeria. We will be starting with the Daily Sun newspaper. On the Daily Sun newspaper, we have boldly written Electoral Act Amendment Saga, that is Kuka Central, Yaunga Africa orders want mandatory result transmission. You find that in page 6 of that newspaper platform. Still on that, we have Nigeria will continue borrowing to fund 25.91 trillion naira budget deficit coming from Senator. I'll take that again. Nigeria will continue borrowing to fund 25.91 trillion naira budget deficit. That is coming from the Senator. Find that in page 26 of that newspaper platform. Editors urge NAS to adopt mandatory immediate election result transmission. You find that in page 26 as well of that newspaper platform. Appeal Court upholds Senate suspension of Natasha. You find that in page 5 of that newspaper platform. Now on the top left, Obi CSO's activists occupying NAS over senator rejection of return electronic transmission of election results. You find that in page 6 of that newspaper platform. Moving to This Day newspaper. On the top of This Day newspaper, we could see there Access Bank acquisition of South Africa Bidvest Bank falls through dual two regulatory handles. I'll take that again. Access Bank acquisition of South Africa's Bidvest Bank falls through due to regulatory handles. Now, still on This Day newspaper, Tinubu, terrorism giving Nigeria sleepless nights. We will overcome them all. That is coming from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Now, boldly written, Electoral Act, coalition of CSOs won 2027 elections may be compromised. Yes, Election Act, coalition of CSOs won 2027 elections may be compromised. Now, moving to the next newspaper platform, which is the Daily Monitor. On the Daily Monitor, boldly written, Obi NGE SMBLF demands end to Electoral Act controversy. Now, on the top, Appeal Court affirms Natasha suspension, says Senate acted within law. Now, on the bottom, we have Tinubu pledge to combat terrorism. Banditry says they are foreign to Nigeria. Now, going to the Matrix newspaper. On the Matrix newspaper, we have Nigeria will overcome terrorism. Banditry, that is coming from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And you find that in page 2 of that newspaper platform. Now, on the top, we have CAC delisted over 400,000 inactive companies in 2025. That is coming from Magaji. Now, we still have Electoral Act Amendment Bill, Brouhaha, tension as Senate convenes today. Now, going to page 3 of that newspaper platform, Tinubu hosts Wike Fubara in bid to resolve Rivers political tension. Now, on the bottom right, we have in page 9, register now or miss out, JAMB test UTME candidates. Now, in page 2, Appeal Court upholds Senate suspension of Natasha. Akpati squeezed 5 million naira fine. Now, in sports, Super Eagles coach Chel eyes Real Madrid job. You find that in page 25 of that newspaper platform. Now, moving to the next newspaper platform, which is the Nigerian News Direct. Boldly written, NEC, Tinubu vows to crush banditry, terrorism. Challenge governors to deliver inclusive growth. Now, still on that, in page 12, 2026 appropriation bill. I'll take that again. 2026 appropriation bill. Senate vows to translate numbers into outcomes. Now, in page 13, Naira stability attracting foreign investment amid economic reforms, CBN says. Now, moving to the Guardian newspaper. On the Guardian newspaper, fresh killings, adoption, hastening security fears amid drone attacks. Find that in page 6. Now, on the top left, fresh borrowings loom as 2026 budget face 25.27 trillion naira deficit. Now, still on that, Tinubu words into Fubara Wike rift again. Now, still on that newspaper platform, GDP figures no longer enough to measure progress, says Shatima. Now, on the bottom left, we have resident protest as terrorists adopt 7 in Kaduna. Still on that newspaper, NAS, NERC seeks judiciary aid for grid power sector stability. Now, on the left side, bottom, Senate to harmonize Electoral Act today amend protest over real-time transmission. Still on that newspaper, Nigeria internet speed slips, rank 85th globally. I'll take that again. Nigeria internet speed slips, rank 85th globally. Now, going to the next newspaper platform, which is the Daily Independence. Or the Daily Independence, Nigeria risks slipping into avoidable food crisis, says expert. Says rising input costs may reserve food security gains. Now, still on that, terrorism, banditry would be defeated, Tinubu vows. On the left side, NGE asks NAS to adopt mandatory e-transmission over poll result. You find that in page 7. Analysis see inflation peak in January as rate cut debate deepens. You find that in page 5. Now, we also have FG target 6,000 Nigerians in free cancer screening drive. You find that in page 7. Now, going to the Vanguard newspaper. On the Vanguard newspaper, boldly written, Electoral Act, Senate open criticism will resolve issues today. Senate spokesman. That is in page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. On the top left, 9 worshippers adopted during night vigil in Benue Catholic Church. A very sad one there. 9 worshippers adopted during night vigil in Benue Church. You find that in page 6 of that newspaper platform. Banditry, terrorism are economic hindrance we must overcome. Coming from the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We also have U.S. intervention in Nigeria, a blessing that is coming from the First Lady, Remi Tinubu. You find that in page 8 of that newspaper platform. Nigeria will continue borrowing to fund 25.91 trillion naira budget deficit, Senate says. Now, still on that, suspension. Appeal court dismisses Natasha case, says Senate acted within its power. Still on that, in page 14, Rivers crisis for Fubara Wike meet Tinubu in Abuja. Now, going to the Nigeria Tribune. On the Nigeria Tribune, we have on the top, Tinubu holds fresh peace talk with Fubara Wike. You find that in page 16. Still on that, IMF, multilateral GDP projection achievable but disconnected from everyday living, expert says. Now, boldly written, Electoral Act, OB CSO's order protest in NAS. You find that in page 3 and in page 25. Now, going to the Punch newspaper, which is the last for today. Senate reconvene cease today as Electoral Act triggers uproar. Now, on the top, banditry crisis, FG reject Northern governors call to suspend mining. Now, on page 8, on the right side, bottom, Oyo princes launch court fight over preserve Alaafin's supremacy. Now, looking at it in page 7 as well, President vows to replace open grazing with ranching reforms. Now, on the bottom, again, U.S. to adopt 18 Nigerians on criminal list. Still on that, CBN and NCC propose instant refunds for failed airtime and data. That is all we have on this segment on Newspaper Review in First Next News. Many thanks for being with us. I am Kings Ojalo, and it's a bye for now.